there, my name is Cecile Johnson and I'm CEO of African Development Plan. I'm here today as part of Global City Unity's community outreach to keep you informed about issues that are affecting the Black community and that require us to be unified and be on one accord to find solutions. Today, I want to welcome back my guests, Dr. Gail Fraser, Yusufu Mosley, and Justina Winfrey. These are people who are dear friends of mine, but also activists in the Black community here in Chicago. And we're going to be focusing on some of the findings that we had talked about previously, which deal with the Human Development Index. How are people doing? And this one is going to be on index number 2, which is the issues impacting access to knowledge, otherwise known as education, here in the Black community. So, welcome, Dr. Fraser.
Thank you very much.
Could you please give us a little background,
Sure.
share with the audience who you are?
Sure. As you said, we've been active in the community for a number of years. My background, I'm an engineer, trained engineer by degree, a master's in project management. My doctorate is in education, and I work with curriculum development and things like that, Afrocentric programs to help our children become successful, in addition to being a former principal and a Fulbright scholar.
Awesome.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know that.
Me neither. Come
boy.
on. Okay.
My name is Yusufu Mosley. I'm an activist from the 1960s, advocate of the ideology called Kawaida, developed and created by Dr. Maulana Karenga in Los Angeles, California. And I presently work in the justice field, in a field called, I'm a circle keeper in what they call restorative justice.
Thank you. And Justina.
Justina L. Winfrey, Principal Consultant for J.L. Winfrey Consulting and founder of Computer Advancement in Bilingual Education, GABE, in the Austin community. Our focus with GABE is to ultimately show parents, children, and the community that everything is possible and that we fit. Ultimately, the empowerment and advocacy piece within our communities is missing. The parent empowerment component is not there. Yes. Our parents have to learn how to organize to ensure that the educational components within the schools are on point, just that simple. They have to begin to be the assessors of what is lacking in our community with regards to education. And if they are not aware of their own miseducation, then at some point, how do they identify that for their own children? So as community leaders, we have to begin to teach our youth, and not only the youth, but their parents, not how to parent, but how to be community leaders.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is a little bit of what we did before, which is to just go over a few of the data to kind of line it up so that our guests will then be able to be pointed on their solutions. In the state of Illinois, we have a 14.7% poverty rate, and we have in the Black community a 31.6% poverty rate. All 4 of us live in the city of Chicago, and in Chicago we have North Lawndale at 45.3%, East Garfield Park at 45.4% poverty rate, Burnside at 47.5% poverty rate, Inglewood 47.8%, and Riverdale at a whopping 58.3%. So segregation persists in Chicago, where 48 of the 77 communities are majority minority. It means that people of color are the ones who are majority there. The poorer communities in Chicago are predominantly African American. So let's talk about the state of Illinois. In Illinois, the Black-white student achievement gap are among the largest in the country. When you look at white Latino, there's a gap of 27 percentage points. When you look at white African American, it is 33 percentage points. Okay? The seeds of student success are planted early in early childhood, but you find that fewer than 3 in 10 children enroll in state-funded preschools. 3 in 10. And when you look at 33% of Illinois' 4th grade children read proficiently, right? 33%. This is Black, white, everybody, right? But let's take that data and break it down, and you find that African American children are only 12% of them are reading proficiently at the 4th grade. So tell me, where are they going to go and what they're going to do with that kind of level? When they hit the 8th grade, their math scores again are 33% when you add up all the children from all the races, and when it comes to black children, it's 10% for them. Latinos are coming in at 17% and low income at 19%. So when you talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel, that would be the black children in the public school system. When it comes to high school graduation, the city of Chicago likes to tout how well it's doing and it's rising. And last week it had a big, NPR had a big story on how not only in the city of Chicago with CPS, but everybody is juggling the numbers. And so it's not correct, because how can you have children performing at 12% reading on 4th grade, 10% at math on 8th grade, and then you tell me how they're matriculating and leaving high school? With what? With what level of education are they leaving? So in the city of Chicago, we have found that 11% of CPS graduates are college ready, right? And what is the impact of that? That means all these children who leave high school and go to open enrollment in the community college, they're not ready. So they end up taking whatever resources they're getting and paying for remediation of 12, 13, and 14 years that taxpayer already paid for. That is fraud. And not only that, they're going to end up with student loans that they can't pay, and they're not going to have any credits because they're going to take more than 2 years to catch up on 12 years that CPS forgot to give you, right? Yet we paid you to do this. And so we have a serious crisis. Now that the mayor has said that we're going to be able to have a B average and leave high school and go on to the community college, well, guess what? If only 11% of those students from CPS are college ready, then who will be taking the mayor up on this offer, right? So low performing schools in the black community can no longer be tolerated. What we need is for people to begin to take each area that we live in, gather up the data, which is online, right? But we just need to have it in a more comprehensive manner and begin to look at our community and say, what is happening here, right? How many children are on grade level? How many children, what's the graduation rate for your high schools, and what's the college enrollment? And college is nice and wonderful, but that's not really what's going to make you into somebody, right? It's more important if you were getting a trade, a skill, had some entrepreneurship opportunities, all these things that many of our community schools don't have these programs, right? So what examples, we're going to be looking today at what's going on out there. We're going to look at the fact that we have CPS is 85% minority, about 39% black and about 45% Latino, maybe about 9% white. And yet when you look at the majority of the teachers who are there, they don't look like the children. Having spent some time in the public school system myself, and observing, it's very important that the children have people who look like them. A lot of time people come to our schools because they get a chance to write off their student loans, because they've spent time, you know, so we as activists in our community, we understand the racket. And there's nothing wrong with you coming to our community and you know, working there if you really want to be there. But many times we can tell by your attitude and the way the children perform that you really don't want to be here. It's like you making your time, but it's worth it because when you leave, your student loans are paid off, right? While our student loans are still outstanding, okay? Plus the children ain't learning nothing. So we have a problem with that. Of the 347 tenured teachers laid off in 2012, 51% of them are African American. I did tell you that only 9% of the school district's children are white. So please tell me how come you laid off 51% of the children, of the teachers who look like us and have a connection to the children. Nationally, for every one black man who graduates from college, you have 100 who are arrested. So even within the public school system, you have that schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is that what role should education play in meeting the needs of the black community? We have talked before about the high unemployment, the high poverty, all of this, right? Well, education has to meet the needs of your community. So I'm going to be asking my guests, what role should education play in meeting the needs of the black community?
Well, you know, I would definitely start off being a teacher in classroom as well as a principal and administrator. One of the things I know for sure is that the education initially means to draw out. So that means you're going from their authentic knowing to assist them along the path. When I was in the classroom, I looked in terms of their destiny. I wanted to make sure that everything that they needed to have in order to go on to the next level was there. But see, again, I was at a private school, so being at a private school, I was able to set the tone with all of the bureaucracy and all of the other things and dismantled curriculum structure and throwing in one curriculum and taking out another curriculum. It throws off our students, and one of the major reasons why we have problems, as you already mentioned, is that we have this disconnect in terms of those looking like us. And of course, it's already been proven that you learn better when you have someone who looks like you, because then you can relate to them. When you have these foreign individuals coming in, and of course, I don't have anything against foreign, but when the majority of the schools, urban city, as you said, was 51%, then we have to have some type of parity there, you know, in terms of the educational structure. So that in itself is a major, and my dissertation, I even included that, but we can discuss that later.
Okay.
In my view, start off with something Mr. Malcolm X said. He said, education is the passport to the future. Education, he didn't explain, and he didn't, he may have known, but I'm going from what I know and what he taught me. Education is a socialization process. And education in the African American community is a socialization process. And socialization gives you three things: identity, purpose, and direction. Our identity is mixed up with another identity called Euro-American.
Yes.
And that Euro-American identity is the dominant force.
Yes.
So you learn Euro-American values, views, and how to act and think in the world. That's contrary to who we are.
Of course.
So we don't have people who are defining our purpose as African Americans within the larger menu of other purposes. So we get confused, and our children don't see themselves succeeding in a dynamic that forces one out of many to become the super achiever or dominant force, and they lead the way, but everybody can't go that way. So the people who authorize this socialization process know that.
Of course.
But they don't tell us. We don't know, because we see education as the passport that Malcolm mentioned, but we see it as a roadblock too, because all of us, what some people call talking white, we can't talk white. We only can talk the way we know we grew up in, because I remember growing up and was saying ain't, and the teacher would say that ain't in the dictionary. You got to stop saying words that aren't in the dictionary. Well, fast forward to 2015, and you can look ain't up in the dictionary and find out what it means to the larger culture, because the larger culture is speaking ain't. So, and then the direction, we don't know where we're going. We want to be inclusive in the society, or we want to be formulate our own society, or we want to leave here and go back to our motherland or whatever. We haven't decided that as a group of people. And education hasn't made that necessary. And if we read, is it Carter G. Woodson's book, Miseducation of the Negro, we'll get an idea of what education has done to us, where he said, if you don't have, if you sent to the back door, and there is no back door, you'll make one, because your education makes it necessary.
Exactly.
So they force us to the back. We made the door, and we go in the door, and we find out there's nothing there with our picture, name, or anything on it. So when they fire all the African American teachers, they say because they were incompetent, or all kinds of lies.
That's not true.
And we don't have the will among those people to start an alternative school system, what they call in charters these days. And we get lost, and our children get lost because they keep trying to identify with their peers, and their peers are going this way, that way, and that way, and that way, and we keep losing our way. So my thing is, the socialization process needs to be changed, and we keep going on this whole thing over and over again.
So you said socialization process is identity, purpose and direction. Okay, yes. And so our education system should be pointing us in that way. Because it ties into what Dr. Claude Anderson says are the 5 stages of power, right? Economics, political, legal, media, and then education. And education is reinforcing the values of those who hold economic power. We own no economic power, so we don't control what happens with education. Okay, Justina.
When we talk about the schools and the level of responsibility that educators have, that the school itself has? That's the question, correct?
What role do you see education playing in meeting the needs of the Black community?
Okay. The first thing that we have to begin to be clear on is the fact that within the structure of the Black community and the role of education, we learn every single day. But the social side of it, the family side of it, the neighborhood, the political, the economic, the cultural environment, at the heart of it are the children. If, like Dr. Fraser said before, if any of those components are lacking, there is going to be an issue. So if that child is going to school hungry, if that child cannot get to school from November to February or March during the coldest days because they don't have the proper clothing, but it's not the child's fault. The home, the needs within the home are not met. If the needs in the home are not met and those parents' needs are met, that's a broken home. But not only are the needs of the home not met, we have to look to the community, the folks who have these programs to meet the needs of families that don't have it.
Right.
Those community stakeholders have a responsibility to not just sit on those resources, but to go above and beyond to get those resources to the people who truly need it. Which means that there has to be an open line of communication within the schools, the local schools, so that the parents can go to those schools to get those resources. And they have a structure now where they have a parent resource coordinator. I've only seen one parent resource coordinator go above and beyond. It is a lot of work to have to bring in resources from the community for the parents and the students, where you have these parent resource coordinators who are still teaching in the classrooms. They're teaching special education. They've stretched some of our teachers so thin where they can't necessarily address their roles and duties that they're supposed to. So fast forward, CPS has a great structure, the parent university structure that they've adopted. And on the national level, there is a national parent component for the parent university where there is legislation tied to it. CPS instead reinvented the wheel. I happen to be a part of the structuring of that through the process, and although it looks nice and it seems like it makes sense, until you actually test it and see what works and what doesn't work and how these families are impacted from these so-called pilot programs within the schools. When we talk about education, you have to open the resources up to not only the children, but to the parents,
families.
to the family, to every single member in that household, because again, all those folks are impacting that child. Parent came to school every single day, okay, because she's homeless. Her children live with her in a homeless shelter, 3 of them, okay? They had a parent resource room. The administration shut it down. Now this parent who is homeless, living in a homeless shelter, has to leave this parent resource room. So what I'm saying is, we have the resources. It is up to the administrators within those schools to go above and beyond, to decide if they want to push their staff even harder to see something effective in the community.
Can I kind of chime in on that if I could, please? One of the things that I want to say, a lot of it has to do with the will. And a lot is to be said about the will, because I know, and like I said, I'm just going to digress for a quick minute to say, being at a private Christian school, we didn't have resources. We didn't have resources. Okay, and that's one of the things that I used to always have a problem with, because I said, well, the public school system, they had the resources and everything. We were working off of crumbs, but our students learned, and no, we did not screen them, contrary to what some people may think. They came, they learned, because we poured everything we could into those children. So I'm saying this is that if the will is there, if we learned through slavery, okay, with nothing, then if the will is there, it's no way possible that our children cannot learn and do well. And that's a concern right there.
So what I'm hearing from all of you, what I'm hearing from Justina in particular,
Yes,
is that when I ask what role should education play, we're going deeper than that.
Oh,
we're
yes.
saying that when we look at our data in our community, that the needs of the family have to be met simultaneously as we are meeting the needs of the children. So this is an additional thing.
It certainly
and
is.
we live in America in 2015 and we never thought we would be there, right? But she's correct. So if we have homelessness, if we have hunger, if we have no clothes to wear, right? All of these things and extreme poverty, then it's going to have to be something. So you're saying then that the schools have to be in our communities more responsive to our community's reality and our community's needs.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I'd like to just add something to that. First of all, we have to remember that it was our ancestors in a place called Egypt or Kemet that established the educational opportunity in the first place. We had a being called, in Medo Neter or hieroglyphic, is called Rakit, knowing being. Knowing required an education of the world around you. And our ancestors started that, and we need to recall that in our process of making this educational system serve our interests and our people.
So our education should be serving the interests of our people,
Yes.
right?
Most definitely.
So Justina talked a little bit about some programs, right? It sounds like we need more resource officers. We need more screening of the children from the day one, right? To see, well, what are the needs of their family members, right? Because that's going to impact them and the low scores that they
Yes.
have. How can you study if you're worried about
Of
something
course.
happening to your mother
Of
or
course.
whoever else is in the family and you're homeless, right? So what kind of roles can we see community as well as religious institutions who are part of our community help, given that this is what's going on?
Again, everyone has to be willing to go above and beyond. The resources are there, but if no one is willing to go ahead and write for the donations for 20 or 30 or 100 coats for the children of this school, we have churches right next door to the schools and they don't communicate with each other.
That's a major problem.
But the churches get toy donations, clothing donations, food donations on a regular basis. When it just comes down to, once again, the administrators at those levels being willing to communicate and connect with the community. Okay, it's just that simple. You have to have a heart for the community and you have to be willing to open your school up to the community. Yes, you're going to be scrutinized, but at least the community can assess where their children are and to help you make improvements. Because again, when we look at the Nettlehurst model, Nettlehurst on the north side works. Why? Because of gentrification. They took that school over and they made it work for their community.
Right.
That's the point.
So that's the key, is
That's the
for
point.
their community.
That's the point.
Right? So when we're looking at some solutions, we need to build a stronger economic base in our communities
Yes.
of businesses that can help create private-public partnerships with schools, right? Apprenticeships for students,
Yes.
resources for schools, mentors for students, and jobs for their parents,
Exactly.
right? We need more community participation in schools. That means you need to participate in a needs assessment. Like we said, the data is already there. What we need is to be able to bring it together so we have a comprehensive look of our community and we can say to that alderman and the mayor, this is what's happening in Inglewood. This is what's happening in Garfield Park. This is what's happening here, there, and everywhere. And we have some solutions, right? We need fundraising and grant writing. Imagine the church is next door. They have things. The school is here. They got a need. Let's marry them, right? So we need fundraising and grant writing teams to write grants for school resources. And yes, even if your child does not go to that school, because sometimes we have the same poor performing parents who have themselves been miseducated in the school system, so they're not able to function as well, but willing to learn, right? So we're going to need members of our community who are more higher functioning in those particular
Yes,
areas to
true.
come into our lower performing schools and help to
Yes,
write
that's
those
what it's
grants,
about.
help to connect those resources, right? We want them as mentors. We want them as tutors. We want surrogate parents, right? One of the children in the school told me my parents don't. I asked him about when he went home if they looked at the homework. He said no, they don't really
That
care too much
happens.
about me. That was his thing, right? I know it must have broke his little
Of course
heart
it did, I
because
know.
so we need people who love children.
That's right.
We're going to screen you because we don't want no crazies around our kids, but we would like surrogate parents. We need surrogate grandparents. And one of the things that I saw in some of the schools is that children come in, they get those school supplies at the beginning of the school year. By the end of the school year, they don't have any. Hello, they need pencils and paper straight through till the end of the school year. Okay, so can we do more than the feel good at the beginning of the semester, but ongoing, right? We need more support services for parents and students to address unique needs of the community. We need year-round schools,
We have
right?
to have that. We have to
Boarding
have
schools
that.
for troubled youth.
Yes.
We need starting school year with counseling and team building
Yes,
in
yes,
our
we have to
community.
have that.
Because
We
at
have
the
to have
end of the
that.
school year, I'm finding children
have to
still
have that.
fighting with each other. I said to them, "You've been with each other all year. What's up with this?" Right? Conflict resolution, parent support groups,
All that.
tutoring for everybody, right? More
Yes.
emphasis on core skills. We need reading and math. We need before new subjects are introduced, because if the child can read, they can read and learn
They
everything.
can do it,
right?
yes.
We need life skills. We need rites of passage.
We need all of
peace
that.
circle. We need entrepreneurial emphasis from kindergarten, right? And all schools need to have trades and apprenticeships.
Absolutely.
So as we're looking at solutions, we only have half an hour, and we can only tell you but so much. But you know, we're looking at how we can now, and we're
Yes.
saying these things because community, please, we're planting seeds here. All of us here are farmers. We're planting some seeds.
Right.
We're planting some seeds of ideas in your mind. Could you please get involved? We need more community
Exactly.
help and support. Children should not miss school because it's cold outside, and you have a coat sitting in the closet that they could be
That's
wearing,
true.
or some boots or some shoes or some gloves, right? Just think of it. If this was your child and you have the resources and you buy something for yourself, buy something extra for another child, take it to the school and give it out to the principal and let them share it with them. I really appreciate having you all
Yes.
here, talking
Thank you.
about this, bringing this insight. Justina, I know Justina's a mother,
Yes.
right? Dr. Frazier's a mother. All of them are parents, Yusufu, and have seen what's going on and are
yes.
very concerned.
Oh, yes.
We hope you'll take some heart in the solutions that we're offering, and those who are capable of offering more, hear that we are serious and committed, and see how you can help us to begin to make solutions. So, once again, my name is Cecile Johnson. I am CEO of African Development Plan, and I want to thank Global City Unity for their community outreach, for giving us this opportunity to speak to the global Black community on issues affecting our community. As you can see, we're very proactive. We're all about solutions, right? So you can reach me on Facebook at African Development Plan. You can reach me by email at African, AFRICAN, Development Plan at gmail.com. And you can go to the website, www.africandevelopmentplan.org. Thank you for watching. I hope you will be interested and come back again and share another area that we'll be looking at. And we look forward to hearing from you. Again, if you're about solutions, write me. If you want to just complain, don't, right? Put a little time into finding a solution. It takes a village to raise this child, and you are part of the village. Thank you.